This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Timothy Simardal. I'm in Los Angeles and Tim is in Brooklyn. How's the flooding going?
Well, we had like these massive downpours, but where I wasn't in Manhattan in the subways when all that shit went down, and a lot of that shit was a little more upstate. But yeah, New Jersey got fucked actually. Parts of New Jersey got really fucked. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go in the ocean in the next couple of days. I mean, they have to open up those sewers. I mean, like, no, I won't go in that
I
shit.
wouldn't go on the subway. The rats might be swimming to the surface, but whatever. I won't be there anyway. It doesn't matter. I just got back from Tijuana and outside of Ensenada with Sylvia Black and Greg Foreman. Great shows at some new places out there. Very cool. Had a great time and did my show at Covell with Lawrence T. Lewis in charge and Devin Sarno on bass. Dead Men Talking. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Let's see what I had some stuff. I mean, well, we recorded. My cousin was in town. Um, I'm playing tomorrow with Kevin Shea with Hannah Marcus, who was actually a guest on there. She's hired us to do some of her songs. Actually, pretty good. And then I'm playing again on Friday. So busy. And then I don't know. We're playing pretty soon. So yeah, a bunch of stuff
Playing
coming.
August 3rd at TVI. Well,
Yes, we are.
since I'm in LA, I thought this story was very interesting. Man dies after falling into burrito factory meat grinder.
Oh my
19-year-old
God.
man was killed when he fell into a meat grinder at a Vernon food processing facility. The man, whose name has not been released, was a member of the sanitation crew at Tina's Burritos, the 2600 block of Vernon Avenue. At 9:30 p.m., he fell into a meat grinder and what's been described as an industrial accident.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
so what do they do? I mean, industrialized meat grinders that fill frozen burritos. I mean, that's obviously producing a lot of mush, whatever it is. Ultimately, what
well, you know, I,
do they?
I hope the Trump administration doesn't hear about that. It'll be sending everybody into a freaking meat grinder at a burrito factory.
Well, I mean, do they completely wash out and sanitize all the work? And that's super expensive, or
Oh,
they kind of like. In other words, is there a chance that even at a very minuscule level, people will consume a bit of human meat?
look,
I don't
that's
know.
the least of the praise in a fucking meat grinder. I have a joke for you, Tim.
Okay.
Why is it that Trump is so interested in getting rid of all the farm workers here and replacing them anyway with grannies, which isn't going to happen? I'll give you the answer. The
Please.
only vegetable Trump eats is a freaking pickle on his Big Mac. What does he care if we don't have any vegetables to eat, motherfucker?
Yeah, that is correct. And
Pickle
he is,
puss.
well, his base is the thing they're turning on him with is everyone knows
Epstein.
is the Epstein thing. And yet he even went against a lot of his supporters, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, was like, I don't need your support anyways. But it is kind of weird. I mean, it's even if he comes up with some kind of video or some kind of list, no one's going to buy it at this point. So even if this is all
Look, hang on. 5 years ago, somebody found a book with 5,000 phone numbers. Just go to Vanity Fair and check it out. Somebody found a book called Everybody on It. There were like 14 numbers for Trump, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's not like this is new information. They just don't want to release it. 1 week, it's like, oh, I've got the files on my desk and hundreds and thousands of videos. And the next week, it's all disappeared. Oh, fuck.
Well, that's something. Part of it might just be distraction from all the things he's doing, but there's also the missing video of Epstein's death.
By the way, Wired magazine had a very good article about. There's not 1 minute of missing video. And first of all,
it's three.
Adobe Photoshop 3 different times to get to that conclusion that they want. We all know what happened. Come on. Well, anyway, I got to get into this article, which is, quote, start screaming and crying and throwing up because scientists discover Earth is trapped within a giant hellish void in space. Have you ever felt like you were stuck inside a pointless, empty, and futile existence where happiness is an illusion and nothingness stretches on forever? Well, good news, you are. At the 2025 National Astronomy Meeting, a team of astronomers presented a convincing hypothesis that Earth is located in a particularly depressing part of the universe. That's great to know. I'm showing my film on depression on Sunday in the Yucca Valley. They theorize that the Earth and the entire Milky Way might be inside a vast cosmic void. Really? An isolated region where not much happens, nothing ever changes. It's basically like the interstellar equivalent of Des Moines, Iowa. And depressingly, it's only going to get worse. The universe of poor Smith explained, if we were inside a void, the gravity of denser external regions would pull matter outward, causing the void to become even emptier over time. Yeah, that's pretty much seems like where we are. So, of course, responses are like people nodding their head in agreement as they conclude, we're in the ghetto part of the cosmos, that we live in the space boonies, or that Earth is officially in cosmic prison. Well, get used to it, kids, because with Trump in charge, everybody might end up in a frickin' prison.
Yeah, well, it's been a while since I've told animal news, but and they've been talking about this. Well, dogs being able to smell different diseases. Well, the first really full convincing study is that they can really smell Parkinson's disease, and they can smell it just 80% of the time in just people, 98% of the time with a swab. So this is significant because they can smell it way before anyone has any symptoms, or they're going to the doctor. And the problem is, by the time you're trying to diagnose what's going on, the amount of brain damage is pretty significant. So this is a huge step, like in terms of just kind of containing it before the wildfire really spreads. It's pretty amazing news, actually, with medicine.
The only thing is, I mean, dogs, like most animals, are very in tune with things that we aren't, whether it's from smell or vibrations. But how do you know? How do you get Fluffy to tell you, hey, it's Parkinson's, and not just from us?
Well, they are specifically trained dogs, and so they want to bring them more into the medical community. So that's positive. That's a positive news. Now, another thing, I guess, unless you really party all the time or whatever, lifelong musicians who've just been doing it their whole lives, show much more youthful brains when it comes to speech and loud noises. So it's not even just necessarily hearing loss, but like I think just because they're thinking about mixing and interacting with other musicians. When people get older, they have a harder time picking out what people are saying when there's like background noise and all that stuff, which as a reaction accelerates things like dementia. So lifelong musicians have much more youthful brains when it comes to that specific thing.
Well, obviously, the so-called flute-playing young Trump, it didn't solve his dementia, and he did it. No. The only flute he plays is his own skin flute against the TV set, which no longer he can watch at the White House since they banned X-rated content. Just saying.
So right now, tourism in Europe is it's a little out of control, and for many different reasons.
Nobody wants to come here.
Well, that's one of them. So the places are being flooded because no one's coming to the United States. But what goes along with that is a lot of just disasters. For instance, just people swarming these little random places that celebrities and influencers go to take selfies. So it's just like these piles of people trying to take selfies in these, like, sometimes these little villages in Italy and these random places. And it's basically driving people nuts. Now, another thing is Ibiza. The drug stuff is the ambulances are super overwhelmed. And because that place is being flooded more than ever. And the drug overdose, people are dehydrated and they're doing ecstasy. But the one that's really popular these days is ketamine. And people are mixing it with alcohol. And just the hospitals are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed. Well, there's a drug in Ibiza. Call me ignorant. It's called pink cocaine. What's that?
Yeah, well, it's just cocaine mixed with other crap.
Okay. I didn't
you gotta watch out. I mean, right now, stick to tequila. That's all I can say.
Yes. Good advice. As Beethoven said, never take advice, but still.
I had some of the most delicious mezcal I've ever had in Mexico. It was absolutely so smooth, delicious, and sweet. And nobody had to call the ambulance, and nobody got too drunk, and it was just a tasty treat. Anyway, it's boiling hot here. It's hot and occasionally downpouring in New York. The weather is just insane. The whole center of the country, flooding, rain. I mean, how about the Grand Canyon
On
fires, which
fire.
then release chlorine gas from a water treatment facility?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
stay
floods and
inside.
well, it was all. We'll see what happens. I mean, hurricane season's gonna be interesting. That's all I can say.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. You know what I
Well,
pray for?
yeah, I mean, so we need. I don't know. I mean, it's like private donors for like disaster relief. I mean, come on. I mean, that's the thing about
I mean, I focus on Texas because they voted for the cunt. I mean,
well,
there's.
yeah,
I mean, who
exactly.
in Nashville's rescue or any other, so many other places. Anyway, you know what? We're in the cosmic ghetto. Get used to it.
Well, I mean, for the libertarians, it's like, oh, cut the fat. It's like, well, in that case, then where are you going to stop? Like, okay, no fire department. Just have your house burned down. Like, is that where they want it to
Well,
go?
and also, excuse me, weather modification. That's what's happening. Well, you know what? All the chemicals, all the carbon dioxide, all the pollution, you can call it what you want. You could say that there's weather seeding. But the thing is, all of these lead to climate catastrophe. Whether you believe in the seeding and weather modification, what is modifying the weather is all the filth that we're pouring into the atmosphere. And
Yep.
too many humans like rats, they're no fucking better. I'll quote No Trend one more time. And with that, I gotta go. I got other things to do right now.
All right. Well, this week's guest, the tuba playing extraordinaire, Dan Peck, who's world class, and I'm psyched to finally have a tuba player on the fucking thing. We've been talking about
Well,
it for
and
so long.
I'm starting the hashtag Me Tuba movement as
Yes,
I
the
will.
Me Tuba movement is starting now.
This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, and our special guest today is tubist extraordinaire, which, by the way, the tuba, I'm always saying, one of my favorite instruments, Dan Peck, whose new album is quite creepy, and that's a high compliment coming from a creep. It's mysterious, it's heavy, it's weird, it's instrumental. A new album that you have out with Tom, is it Blancart or Blancarte?
Blankart.
Blancart and percussionist Brian Osborne. I really like it. It's very atmospherically devastating.
Well, first off, Dan, Lee and I have been talking about tuba for years now. I was like, well, I know a tuba player, and it was just a matter of time before we had you on here. Lydia loves the tuba. What instrument did you start with?
It was tuba. Well, I mean,
It,
I played,
cool.
yeah, I mean, I started at, I think at least in my school, you could start around like 9 or 10 years old and, just pick tuba. Love the low. I was always, detuning my dad's guitars to get the lower notes. So it's just like a fascination with low notes. But the thing is, I started at 10, but I wasn't really like into it until late high school. And so I was playing guitar and bass like in garage bands and stuff. So it's kind of more into kind of rock and grunge kind of stuff before kind of getting more serious with tuba and tuba studies.
and
Um,
and did you start?
I find it a very obscenely sexy instrument.
yeah, totally.
So,
Unreal.
I mean, is there like a beginner small person tuba, or is that like a euphonium, or and you work your way to tuba? Well, how's that work?
Yeah, you could do it that way. I mean, there's definitely different size tubas. So there's like a student size tuba, that you can get for a lot cheaper, and they don't, it's not too expensive. And then you get a bigger horn.
Now,
Um,
are you a tuba snob? Do you like kind of look down on sousaphones?
no, not at all. I actually I was fortunate enough to get one a few years ago. I didn't own one for years, but my wife's colleague's father was a sousaphone player. It's kind of wild. He was like, I think he got to the point of like state senator in Wisconsin. He was like very like, 70s liberal, like pro arts and all this stuff, but he was like very pro music in the schools and he was a sousaphone player and he was known as the guy who would like show up to work with his sousaphone and like
Well,
play in the rotunda in the Wisconsin State Building.
That's the
Yeah.
funnest. That's the funniest story. And for the listeners who don't know that what a sousaphone is, I think many people do, but it's the kind of like the marching tuba, the thing that wraps around your shoulders, and the bell is way up there. And sometimes tuba players like it doesn't sound as good. And I assume John Philip Sousa invented that or is named after him. But
It's named after him. I don't think he invented it. But well, the funny thing is, they were called rain catchers initially because the first sousaphones pointed up and not
oh,
out
right.
for whatever reason. I guess obviously acoustically it makes more sense to go forward, but they were up. And but that's the funny thing. Sousa's band was a sitting band. They didn't really march. Um,
I did
they
not
were
know that.
they were like a concert band. They concertized like all over
Yep.
the states and everything.
I've
But yeah,
never
but
seen a tuba. I've never seen a tubist or a tuba player busking, but I don't know why. I'd be the first one in line to give those dollar bills.
well, there you go. Glad to
I,
have
I
your
mean,
support.
I've seen like in the subway, like kind of like a hip hop kind of thing, and someone's got a sousaphone. I've seen that recently.
Yeah, there's brass bands that you can see that'll have them. They're not cheap. I mean, I guess comparative to trumpets and trombones, they're the more expensive. And you probably know about this. This was maybe more like 10 years ago, but there was a spate of sousaphone thefts in LA.
I didn't know
Um,
about that. Tell me about it.
because banda musicians, because that's the most expensive instrument in a banda. And they were going into schools and like stealing the sousaphones to then like go busking or play gigs because it's like a good sousaphone's not cheap. Like again, comparative to the other brass instruments.
Well, that's funny. I mean, and pretty conspicuous. I mean, to be
That's
loading up bands
hard
with
to
these
hide a
giant
sousaphone.
things.
Yeah, that's true.
Are just sneaking out the back door.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if there'll be a sort of like the avocado cartel, maybe there'll be a sousaphone cartel.
Well, or you could fit the avocados inside the sousaphone. That's the other thing. I mean, which I'm sure you both could imagine. Tubas are great for, illicit, things, or if you want to hide stuff. Tubas, it's pretty, like
Well,
you stuff
that's
a lot of
called
stuff in there. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Dan, that's called moving weight. At that point, you're not packing a
Yes.
little thing. You got a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
You have to buy an extra seat on the plane for the tuba, or is it even too big for the plane seat?
I've done both. I've bought a seat for it. I've also checked, do you have I have like a luggage case for it that you can use. I've also done like the bass, like the de jour thing that I know a lot of like upright bass players do in Europe where you just have a instrument provided. Tuba, it's a little dicier. You have to kind of make some more emails and stuff. But
Well, I mean, Dicer probably in terms of access, but Dicer in terms of what you get. I mean, the bass is your upright bass. It's like sometimes you get these things like you can't even play it.
right.
It's this strings are so high up the neck. But all right, let's. I could geek out all day, and I think we will
Yeah.
more. But let's go into your kind of life trajectory here. So you're in rock bands in high school. Then you get serious. What made you decide to get serious about tuba? You're like, I just like music, and this is what I'm good at, and that's what I'm going to do.
I think it was, like playing in bands and that was fun. But then, I went to like a Berkeley guitar like summer camp thing for a week. And then I think I realized, okay, like I have some small natural talent, but so do like 500 other kids. Um, so I took a few lessons on tuba and then also had the teacher tell me like, yeah, you're not that talented. You're gonna actually have to like practice and stuff. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It just kind of became like a challenge, I guess. I think guitar and bass never totally went into the background.
Well, so Dan, I'll stop you when they say you're not that talented. I mean, I talked to Ron Savinsky about this. If you have better ideas and a better vision, practice. You know, as Ron Savinsky goes, duh, the easy part. That's just the technical part. And if you put the time
hmm.
in, and you have better ideas and a better vision, well, then you're gonna excel to the top pretty quickly.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess he's challenging kind of like the genius versus, 1,000 hours or whatever. Or what was it, 10,000 hours? Yeah.
Would you
Um,
practice the tuba in your parents' house? It's got to be
yes.
really annoying until you master it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's definitely more pleasant than practicing trumpet, but
Yeah,
maybe that's a
or
marginal difference.
or fucking violin, like a squeaky high pitch thing.
Although violin's funny, it doesn't really, once you close the door in a room, it doesn't really get through walls the same way brass does, I think, or like percussion or drums.
Percussion, yeah, that.
No,
But trumpet, yes.
no. Well,
Yeah,
no, I mean,
yeah,
I was having more fun playing in bands. Yeah, tuba wasn't really that fun for a while, but again, I think it was. We'll put it this way. I think if I had a guitar teacher and they had said, "Hey, like you should put some time in on this and develop certain things," I might have had a different trajectory. But just for whatever reason, guitar was or playing in bands was you do it just, like I was shedding on it. I was like trying to play Primus licks on bass or Jocko stuff. But like no, but it wasn't like formalized lessons.
right.
Um,
Yeah, there's such a surplus of electric guitar players.
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that was part of it.
It's atrocious.
Yeah, yeah, most of them, but it's still you have to even if you're way more qualified than the majority, you still have to sift through all the shit. Where with tuba, you can storm right through it, like, oh,
I
like
think, yeah, it's like I think at that right at like 16 years old, I wasn't thinking about it that way or didn't have that kind of scope. But I mean, I think that's kind of what was maybe happening in the back of my mind was like, okay, there's less people that do this. Maybe there's more of a chance of kind of finding a niche or something, you know.
so you went you studied music in school. What, William Patterson, or where'd you go?
No, Rutgers. Yeah, so born and
Oh,
raised in
Rutgers.
East Brunswick, and then Rutgers is right down the road.
Yeah, well,
Um,
but you were
yeah.
probably, I wonder if you were there when Dave Budden was getting his PhD. But
Well,
yeah,
I knew that Warren was there. I never had direct interaction with
no, no,
him.
no, no, it's Charles Warren. Yeah, yeah, because Dave was studying with Charles Warren, but
Right,
you
right.
never interacted. But you probably had to play some of his pieces, maybe not there.
I don't, I might have played one or two of his things or like kind of read through some scores or something. But, he has a great trio for bass instruments, Charles Warren, and it's
Yes,
like bass trombone, tuba, and bass, upright
isn't there?
bass.
Is there a? There's not a two. There's well, no tines and conium, no, but there's a tuba.
There's a concerto. There's like a concerto for tuba and wind ensemble. There's also like Prelude to Calervo. It's like a short one movement piece with like tuba and orchestra. So yeah, it's funny. I wonder what, you don't know what Dave's years were there?
You got his doctorate, and it was extended.
He was probably like late 90s or something.
Yeah,
And oh yeah, Rutgers, and then a couple years of Manhattan School in New York, and then just been in New York since.
and so initially, because you have a very prestigious chair. I mean, get a be in an orchestra. For the people that don't know, Dan plays for City Ballet. To get those gigs in Lincoln Center or any major city with a big art center, it's kind of like Supreme Court justice. I mean, those are possibly technically these kind of life terms, and people just don't give them up because they provide benefits and you can play music for a living, and so that chair doesn't come up that often. So that's a huge achievement to get that gig.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
you had to do yours on Broadway and all that stuff in order to get there.
Yeah, and it definitely wasn't like a direct path. Yeah, so I joined the ballet in 2017, but then for 7 years before that, I was doing Chicago the musical, and that kind of connects to the varied upbringing because the Chicago chair was tuba and upright bass double.
So I know you double with electric bass. Do you double on upright bass at all with the just basic whole notes in the half and first position?
Yeah, I mean the bass part was pretty busy for Chicago, or it is pretty busy. It's like, a lot of walking, nothing super exposed, a couple little things here and there, but there was some arco. I had to figure out the bow to make it
So,
like
so I
halfway
mean,
decent.
for the listener that doesn't know, I mean, when you get a Broadway chair, and I don't know if the union scale is more when you have to, it is when you have to double or triple, right?
You get a little bump, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So people told me forever if I wanted to do that career, they're like, learn basic tuba, and you can probably you might get into Broadway a little easier. But I think as a tuba player, it's almost required to know a little
Well,
bass, right?
less so now. I mean, I think the more common double probably is like bass trombone or trombone.
Ah,
So like Lion King, trying to think a couple other shows that are bass trombone. Book of Mormon is a bass trombone tuba double. Yeah, so if you're a
when
freelancer,
you're
it's basically,
when
oh,
you're
go
in a
ahead,
show
Lee.
like that
Yeah.
for a long term, first of all, what's the weekly procedure? How many hours a day? And I mean, when you're doing that, does it make it more difficult to do your own stuff? Because when do you have the time? Or you're like, all right, I'm so bored doing this for X amount of years, I've got to get something out.
Yeah, I mean, it can be that, although it's funny, Broadway is year round. The ballet gig is cumulatively only half a year gig, but when the ballet's in session, we have a lot of rehearsals. So I would say hours wise, it's probably about six and one half a dozen. So, but with the Broadway show, Chicago schedule was unique because both of our double days were on the weekends. So weekdays were basically open. Very occasionally there'd be a rehearsal if there was like a new lead coming in or something. But the Broadway schedule's, I would say, fairly conducive to just doing other stuff. You could basically just check out until 6 p.m. and all right, I got to go to the show, and then at a certain point the show is just sort of autopilot. Um,
What time? How long? So you go in at 6. What time do you get out? 10.
yeah, Chicago was like I think it was 2.5 hours. So yeah, if it was a 7:30 show, you're out around 10, and then adjusted, if it starts a
You
little bit
still have a
later.
life.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for people that are like, I would say maybe where it becomes difficult would be like rehearsals with a band, like if people are nine to fivers, they're free on the weeknights and weekends. That's when you're working. So, I mean, then you have to
Yeah.
discuss, someone
But
taking off.
you have a lot of bands, the Gate, or you've been in different projects, the Gate, and you different ensembles. You were in that premature burial with Matt Nelson and Peter Evans. That's a got to bring that thing back. That's
I
a
know,
great
I know.
thing.
There's a couple of groups that are sort of like maybe stagnant or, like releases, but they were in a few years ago now. Um,
Yeah. So all right. So you've managed to get in there and just have this professional life. So when you're off season with the city ballet, what do you do? Vacation?
I'm on vacation, but then also catching up on other stuff too. So like, yeah, the Gate, the recent album, that's definitely, if there's a busy week, I just don't have as much time to put into it. So I'm like kind of making up for lost time when we have a week or a collection of weeks that are dark off from the ballet. Um,
Yeah. So talk to me about the general different worlds within the ballet and the different life trajectory and the different economic things. Like ballet dancers have a short career because they're like pro athletes, and then they have to
oh, sure.
and then where the orchestra, you're there till you not don't want to be there, you get fired, and then then you have the stage hands, right? I mean, that's the
Mhm.
three general.
Those are the three. Yeah, there's the staff, like office workers. But yeah, the groups you just listed, dancers, stagehands, musicians, those are the main, groups. I mean, they're all union, um, but those are the main groups at the ballet. Yeah.
What about that New York Times article that came out some years ago about the Carnegie Hall stagehands, or the average annual income's like $500,000 a year?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a few outliers for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we could talk about, yeah, unionism is definitely an interesting topic.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you can't just get that gig of pushing a piano across the stage and get 500,000 a year. I mean, that's there's other things going on there.
well, it's funny too because, like you could do a compare contrast between Broadway and the Lincoln Center gigs because,
Okay.
whereas Broadway is basically 100% free market. It's like the producers, like people are putting up money. They're hoping that the show lasts a year, maybe two
Yep.
years. And so
Yep.
maybe you're breaking even, maybe you're making a little, Chicago, I guess now Book of Mormon, Wicked, those are the outliers. The shows that are getting into like the
Yep.
20-year realm. I mean, most
Yeah, that's
shows don't.
rare.
Yeah.
Super rare.
But just to say those are all union gigs. So it is kind of interesting that, there's the Broadway League negotiating with Local 802, the musicians union, for those to be union gigs. Whereas, Lincoln Center gig, I think in the case of the ballet, maybe the operating budget is covered 15-20% by ticket sales. The vast majority of the reason those gigs exist is because people with money think it's a good idea. So I mean, I play in David Koch Theater.
Right. Exactly. There you go.
I mean,
And
there's
then
no
right across the courtyard is the
David
David
Geffen.
Geffen.
Yeah,
David Geffen. Exactly. So those
yeah,
guys are so uh changing direction.
yeah.
The movie Black Swan. How accurate is that with ballet dancers kind of at each other's throats?
I mean, I don't know too many of them personally. I would imagine like, I guess the equivalent for us would be Whiplash, right? With
Right,
musicians.
exactly.
I think it's, the stereotypes don't come out of thin air. I think it's pretty competitive. I mean, about like the Peter Martin's scandal, right? This is around the time when I joined the ballet, but he got kind of Me Too'd 2017, 2018, and
Oh, right.
multiple people. Well, there's a couple of scandals. There's Martin's, and I think what it was that like maybe 20 years ago he had like shook one of the dancers, so it was like physical abuse, something like this. I see Lydia
Shaken
making a
dancer
face.
syndrome,
Yeah.
shaken dancer syndrome, a new problem. Yeah,
Well,
please.
those dancers. I mean, what they do to their toes, ankles, and knees just to do it. I mean, a little shaken is going to ruin their career, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So, and that there were factions. There were people that were like, he's always been great. People that were just waiting for him to go down so they could kind of pile on. But then 2 or 3 years later, there was the sex, like the video scandal. And, this was actually not parodied, but it was, SVU, Law and Order. They like base a lot of their stuff on like recent news. There was like a Law and Order SVU episode based on this, separate from Martin's. It was, some of the dancers, like the guy dancers that were videotaping themselves, like having sex with other dancers and then sending it to like the benefactors that were in on it or something. And
Whoa!
yeah, three of them were fired or like, like put on suspension. When one immediately got a job in like Europe, which, tells you tells you something about these things not happening
Well,
over there.
they're a little less freaked out about sex, and let's. It's a generalization. Dancers are very sexual. Just how they express their bodies, and it's kind of goes with the territory,
Oh
as far as
yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah. But to your point, yeah, their career, I mean, they
Also,
are,
I have to interject.
yeah.
Anytime there's any kind of power move with a director, with a producer, with a boss, there has been historically, and that you have to be really aware that you have to be on your frickin' toes, no pun intended, to prevent bullshit from happening. And I'm all for women. Like somebody does that, you just snatch them by the fucking balls, twist, and it's over. So I'm just saying, there's a lot of scandals out there. Certainly, prejudice, racism, and sexism exist, but it's how you handle it that really counts at this point because the world is not how you want it to be, and certainly any position of power that can be abused will probably be abused. So women get those hands as strong as your feet and just grab them by the freaking nuts. You don't like it, you don't have to report it. You could just end it. I'd rather. I'll just stop there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't disagree. Yeah. I mean, I think,
Have any tuba players ever been me too'd?
um,
Tuba. I'm going to meet Tuba somebody, which means bring it home. I want the tuba.
yeah, the Me Too movement. I know it's a dark secret
Starting
of the
it.
community.
I'm going to start the Me Tuba movement. I'm only going to date Tuba players. That's it. I'm going
There's
to wait till
definitely,
they're out of high school at least this time and
well,
have
I
time.
mean, Tim, about all the Philharmonic stuff, right? Or we
Well,
talked about that.
well, I know about. Well, I actually know about more about the Met with James Levine and all that
Sure.
stuff.
Right.
It's a lot of these musicians, and particularly if you want to be in the top with like violin or those instruments, they've spent their whole childhood locked in this fucking room 12, 14 hours, and you go to the top, you
Yeah,
make
yeah.
it, you're kind of going nuts. You kind of actually you're going to let loose a little bit, maybe. I don't know.
There's a lot of, yeah, that I would say there's definitely differences in the career, I mean, the career length, but also trajectory of dancers, actors on Broadway and musicians. Yeah, namely that musicians, right. If you get a position, if you're lucky enough to get a chair, yeah, you could be there until your 60s, into your retirement. But I would say, yeah, there's a similar element of what you were just talking about with like pressure cooking. You're just working your ass off to get there. But then, obviously that is tied with myopia, not really like kind of knowing what's happening in the world, or these people. It's a niche market. So once you get in, it's like part of you getting in again to what you're talking about is that it's specialized. There's
So,
no.
Dan, as somebody that has penetrated many different stratas from Lincoln Center to the ballet to etc., Chicago on Broadway, is there any time like you're like, well, I really don't like this music, but I'm going to do it because A, I want the gig, and B, because it's just a great opportunity. And the second part of that is, what music did you really like that was something much more commercial than your natural tendencies might be?
Oh, like did I play something that I was skeptical about and then was surprised in liking it?
Answer as you will.
Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing is, I don't know if you guys know Chicago the musical. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, ever tell someone they have to go out and see it now. But I think as musicals go, or something you had to play over and over for many years, there's actually worse stuff, you know. Like
Right.
Sure.
it's Candor at Ebb, it's well written, it's well orchestrated. Um, and you know, that's a really particular example too, because the band's on stage, so you get to see all the dancers,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. It's very, I mean, part of the success of that show is very low overhead.
Who was the
Um,
star when you were doing Chicago? Who was starring?
oh man, it was a huge rotating cast. I mean, there was you know, we had like Billy Ray Cyrus was in there for a few months, Christine Brinkley. You know, that part of the success of that show is that they would get just names, not even people that
Right.
knew what they were doing. There was a great anecdote with Billy Ray Cyrus because we had a rehearsal with him, and again, the band's on stage, and his big first tune, he ends right on the bandstand, right? And he turned around during the rehearsal and just looks at all of us, and he says, "Any notes from the band?" And it just like pissed off the music
Nice.
director. She's like, "No, you don't talk to them."
Any notes from the band?
Yeah.
Well, because he's used to going on the road with having a band, and he probably feels more comfortable around the musicians than he does
Oh,
around the
sure.
whole other
Totally.
staff.
Yeah.
And you're
But
not
it's got
really
to be
allowed to.
really I mean, got to be. Excuse. It's got to be really a big difference. Then you got your own gigs. You're established in one field, and suddenly you're thrust upon this, which is a totally different thing for either an actor or whatever Billy Ray Cyrus thinks he is.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was all sorts of, there was the guy, I forget his name, but the guy who played Big Pussy in The Sopranos.
Okay, I don't know.
He was in for a few months.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Just the whole, and then you know, and then you're like backstage and watching these people like eat a donut. It's unbelievable. I mean, actually,
Yeah.
another thing with Billy Ray was that, you know, he traveled with his own personal doctor. And I remember one night there was an announcement
Oh,
and it was
crap.
like, oh, Billy Ray's doctor said he has some extra B12 shots if anyone's interested, you know, just come to
Did
the
Sure.
anyone
office.
take the needle? Did anyone let Billy Ray's doctor inject in their ass?
I think so,
I'll
yeah.
say,
Hey, extra
yeah.
B12. Yeah.
You know, it used to be really easy in New York to get B12 shots on Spring Street, and they were really pretty freaking effective, I have to say. I mean,
Is it,
it is a
do you
boost
feel
we
like
can
a,
all use.
do you feel like a jolt or like you feel like an energy like right away, huh?
It's just, I mean, I'm never sick, so whatever, but I mean, it was a boost. I was like a couple of fatties lines, that is.
Nice.
Yeah, not
And
bad.
But
so
oh yeah, well Lydia, I mean Lydia also just brought up like doing gigs just to do the gig. Yeah, there's still that. You know, I would say if there's like a both during the Broadway days, but even now at the ballet, if there's like kind of like a downtime or off week or something and something comes along. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, like Tim, obviously, you know Peter, but um I
Peter
think of
Evans.
yeah, I connect Peter
Yeah.
with, you know, we've both played like a lot of like new music gigs in the city over, I guess, like 20 years, and those gigs have been interesting. I mean, number one, the pay for them has kind of stagnated, you know. That's
It's
not,
hideous.
it's, well, it's, you know,
Uh,
it's not, I'm not necessarily making like a pro union argument, but it's funny to me that like a lot of the people that are only doing new music and are probably like, you know, Bernie Sanders bros and are like all about, you know, equal pay and all this stuff. It's like, then they'll turn around and be like, hey, can you do this gig for 50 bucks? Oh, sure. Why not? You know, and, but just to
so
say
so
those,
you say
but
that's the musician's fault? I mean, or just whose fault is that? That because who's it's
I
are
just,
people
you know, the grants are the grant. I mean, listen, I totally don't begrudge people who say I'm going to make a living playing only weird creative music, and that means I'm going to be on the
it's not really
road.
a living. It's not. It's not.
Well, sure, yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard to make a living. I mean, we've been at it for some of us 50 years. It's like, I mean, independent artist, and I work 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. booking shit, constantly juggling. I'm a juggler,
sure,
professional juggler.
yeah,
Call it what you will. And the thing is, just some of us, I mean, it would be impossible, but if only artists were more supported in America, as they are anyway in Europe,
yeah,
generally, with or without the union. This is why I have
sure,
to go to Europe like 4 times a year sometimes.
but
sure.
when Dan, when you say part of the compromise with the union hooking you up and all this stuff is that you have to do every December Nutcracker
Sure.
7 times a week or whatever it is. I mean, you have
Well,
no choice.
that's I mean that's the funny thing too, because I think, you know, right now a lot of people are talking about the affordability crisis in New York. And for sure, New York's expensive. Are there ways that it could be less expensive? For sure, I would support those measures. But I just remember when I started, I know I subbed on Chicago before I got the chair. And like, you know, number of people that would say, "Oh, I could never do that." And to me, it's like, well, that kind of implies you don't need money, which is that's great for you. Like, I need to pay rent.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just like, I know
Well, that's all
it's not
right.
a
A
bet.
lot of people say, a lot of people say to me and Jim they couldn't do this either, and I wouldn't want them to
Sure.
because it's ridiculous, and you got to be really stubborn and relentless in order to.
But
I don't
yeah.
encourage anyone to
But but
become
but but
become
but
a musician,
But
a
you guys
touring
are,
musician,
but
or thinking.
I'll connect this to Lydia's original question. It's like I mentioned all that just to say that the new music stuff is funny because it's not as if it's gotten progressively better. I would say it's gotten worse. But, I mean, the pay is stagnated, but I'm saying that the gigs themselves are often not that interesting, you know.
yeah, good point.
So like
Good point.
I'm just saying 20 years ago, like a lot of these groups would be like, hey, we're new, we do whatever the fuck we want. We're gonna play Charles Wernin, we're playing Xenakis, it's gonna fuck you up. And now it's
Right.
like, oh, the grant people said we have to do XYZ and we need the money. So I guess we'll just take it
I
with the
don't know.
strings
I
attached.
myself,
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
never applied for
totally.
a grant. I'm just waiting for somebody to benefit me uh, in their will. Grants.
You need a patron. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look
Thank you.
again. I mean,
Are you volunteering? I'm
well,
putting it
Well,
out
I
there.
mean, I'm getting me too, but right now, so I don't know what'll
oh
happen after
yeah,
this,
You're
but
what?
I'm getting
getting
me
me
too,
too,
You're
but
the
but right
number
now.
one. You're the number one. Me too, bud.
But Dan,
Which is
could
only
you
a
also make
benefit to both of us.
could you also make the same argument about union gigs? So yes, the new music,
sure. Yeah.
aren't the union gigs becoming less? You know, particularly with the computer era and everything's kind of going down with that too. Isn't like the whole world going in that trajectory?
It's yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a similar phenomenon happening with union gigs. But the funny thing too is like, you know, I subbed a little bit at ABT a few weeks ago, and Chris Wheeldon, he's like a British choreographer, but he's done like four or five pieces with Joby Talbot. I don't even know his name.
Okay,
He's like a
yeah.
British TV film composer, and it's like nice background music. You know, it's not the worst music in the world, but it's like I guess it's a long way of saying there's a lot of like hand wringing about AI. And my argument is, well, maybe composers need to write music that only could be played by humans. You know, it's like if you write music that sounds like it was written by a computer, it doesn't matter how well it's played, it's just going to be shitty music. So it's like what
All right.
what Lydia or what you guys do. It's like there's no like you could never replicate that. So I think it's kind of protected
And
in a
nobody
way.
wants us to either, so don't
Well, there you
worry
go.
about it. I think we're
Yeah.
safe. I think we're pretty safe from that possible
I have
compulsion
a
of AI
But
to encroach upon our
you're
creation.
talking, but Tim, you're talking more about like also like this has also just been a long phenomenon, right? Of like a wedding promoter. It's like, well, the DJ said he could do it for 200, the string quartet's 1,000, so we'll do the DJ, right? I mean
yeah,
that's kind of
and then
that's
now my niece has a MP3 player, an iPod or something, and we'll just press play. You know,
right.
the DJ is being outdone. I'm going to change the direction a little bit. So,
Yeah.
you know, you've done a lot of classic ballet pieces, but a lot of times it's kind of like remixing, going back to the DJ thing, where a different choreographer will come in and redo a piece of music, right? So, like,
Right.
have you done the same piece, say a Balanchine, like an original Balanchine, and then someone has a different interpretation? And if so, when that happens, does that change the tempo, and does that really start changing up the interpretation of the music that much, or are they just kind of conform to the original score and it's just something else superimposed?
Yeah, there's definitely like there's notable differences. I mean, even between companies, you know, like American Ballet Theater does Romeo and Juliet. City Ballet does Romeo and Juliet. Same with Swan Lake, but they're all slightly different and different tempos. Sometimes there's like an extra 8 measures here. Take these 8 measures out here because the dancer needs more or less time, you know, depending on the choreography. So yeah, tempos are huge. And even within the same week, if we're doing four performances of something, there will be two casts and they'll have different tempos or different needs or hey,
Oh, okay.
this person takes time here. This other person just blows right through it. So just watch, you know, because we're definitely at the mercy of the conductor who is in turn watching the stage for all
So
those
you have
little
two
things.
guests to keep it going, right? Because it's too brutal on the bodies to do that many shows in a row, right?
Yeah, that's I would say that's the main reason. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, duh. Of course, I didn't even think about that, but yes, that makes sense. All right. Um, do you ever, not to get dark here, did you ever see a bad accident with the dancers? Any kind of like the ambulances have to come in?
I don't know about ambulances. I mean, there's definitely injuries. I mean, and I would say the injuries happen more before the performance. So often we'll start, the curtain will go down and it'll say, okay, tonight in place of so and so, we have this person, implying that, yeah, they were either injured or overused or something. You're talking about like on stage. I mean, sometimes you hear someone fall. I would say it's usually not like a concussion or anything like that. I think they kind of know how to fall, or learn how
Yes.
to do it.
So
But
did you
uh, but
ever work?
dude, they're so built up. They're like quads and calves and glutes. I mean, they're just like insanely muscular. The funny thing is that this was like maybe around when I came in, there was this like festival in the summer, and Ballet Russe was there, and I think along with maybe it was Copenhagen. Anyway, there were three companies, all with kind of connections to Stravinsky and that 50s time period. But supposedly the French dancers were all like vibing the city ballet dancers for being like fat, which they meant like muscle, like you could see their muscles. The French
Ah,
people were all just smoking cigarettes like outside because they're like, I think the idea is that you're supposed to be able to do all this shit, but like with no muscle mass and kind of make it just you're just kind of like a waif basically.
well,
Like,
it's funny you say that because I saw that Aegon.
oh
Um,
right, yeah.
I saw the Aegon Stravinsky balcony, which pretty cool. But I was up in the balcony, and a lot of people were saying that was the better seat because it was less about the athleticism and more about these kind of shapes
Oh, the shapes.
and
Oh
these kind
yeah.
of silhouettes. So that's what I'm connected with the French thing. It's like it's not just the athletic and the moves. It's literally the way it looks and the shapes of the silhouettes. And having basically a professional American athlete up there doesn't look the same as
Right.
stick figures.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm all for muscle mass.
You heard it.
So are I mean, Baryshnikov's pretty muscular. Right? Or it was
Yeah, they're
back in the
fit.
day.
Yeah. And again, but I connect it with injuries because I mean that's your injury prevention. If your body is your art form, I mean, that could be having strong like calf muscles could be the difference between like a sprain and an actual break. So I
Or
think
is
that's
that
a
just
lot of
Fred?
their
The thing is, though, those are the dancers conforming to the French way, right? Because these companies have dancers from all over the world. So that's just the people working in France, right? They're not all French. Or
Oh, sure. Yeah. And then there's I'm sure that there's divides beyond, what I could talk about intelligently. But yeah, there's all these differences between the companies.
what about all the expats that are anti-Putin who've left since the Russia
Hmm.
invading Ukraine and coming to Paris or New York City and as a gesture? I mean, there a huge mass migration?
Um,
There's
I
been a
mean,
few.
there's been a few. I mean, Alexei Ratnansky, he's in residence right now. He's choreographer, dancer choreographer. He was kind of more affiliated with ABT, but now he's at City Ballet for 4 or 5 years. But he's Ukrainian. So I think he's been outspoken, but he was already here.
I
But
mean,
as
the
far
question
as
really is where we all going to go soon, because
right,
America becoming the new Russia
we'll be
or the new
expats.
El Salvador. I mean, we're all going to have to decide whether to stay and hold down the fort, or burn down the fort, or just evacuate, which I've done in the past and I'm seriously considering right now. But is there any place that's safe?
Hmm.
Well, Dan, is there less funding for, say, Lincoln Center? I mean, we're seeing less funding with everything for the
Yeah.
people right now.
Well, I mean, and funding's the allocation of funding has also changed even in Europe, the last 10 years.
Sure.
So like Netherlands, some groups in Switzerland, like there's a number of examples in Europe where, politicians have been elected who just don't prioritize arts funding as much. So, orchestras lose
Well,
weeks.
or education as much, which is what's happening in this country, which is a really sad fact. And not only education, but of course, arts and music in school is so important. It can really save many a lost soul.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and it's like New York is such a great art city, but it's crazy that there isn't more front page news about schools that, get pull their band programs and music programs and stuff like this. Yeah.
I mean,
But in terms
do
of,
yeah.
oh yeah, but in terms of Lincoln Center, I don't know. I mean, it's again, for better and for worse, I think there's a subset of rich people who will always donate. It's either in the family lineage or, it gets passed on. And but that could change. And again, it's funny because I think there are European orchestras now who are for the first time having to look into philanthropy because of budget cuts, in a socialized system.
Any
But that,
favorite
but
places to play
yeah.
outside of Broadway, Lincoln Center, that are more on the DL, or in other countries or cities that, like, oh yeah, I want to go back to Zagreb, which I always do anyway. But do
Hmm.
you have any places that for your more um, intimate stuff, your own stuff, that you prefer playing at?
Like in New York.
Well, no,
Or
anywhere. Yeah.
anywhere in the world.
Oh. Well, the Gate's done some European tours. Definitely made some friends overseas. There's like a this anarchist spot I remember we played at in Hanover maybe 8 years ago that was kind of, just some old bunker basically that was turned
Yeah.
into a venue. So there's
Oh,
kind of more stuff like that over there.
I know that spot. So when you do your own projects like the Gate, and you're not touring with those that often, but when you do tuba brethren come out? Do you have any like do you have like tuba players from other cities that come out to check your band out, or are you kind of a loner? I mean, are tuba players loners?
I mean, it's
Good one.
it's rare that we're on like most gigs are only have one tuba.
One tuba, exactly.
That's that would not be the where that wouldn't be the case would be like a municipal band or something. That's the difference too. I think that's funny. It used to be more of a tradition here. I think it still happens maybe in like the Midwest or like South. There's like big band culture in like Texas.
Yep, yep, yep,
But nationally, you used to have many more like town bands. That was like one of
yep.
the big communal, like, in addition to like church groups or like bowling, stuff like this, recreational activities. But like you would meet for like a town band. Like that's the funny thing. My uncle lives in Eugene in Oregon, and in his retirement, he got into like euphonium and tuba. And there was this point at COVID, I was just like twiddling my thumbs, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I got a gig on Saturday, then I'm playing rehearsal on Monday." Like he was in, like four bands. Um, but that's still, yeah. There's a colleague of mine in the ballet who is from Spain, and yeah, he was playing in like just municipal bands like his whole life, like growing up.
So I'm gonna go into a direction in the tuba community that you're not in, but you obviously observe. So obviously there must be Bavarian, Bavarian
Oh, it's
German,
huge. Oh yeah,
but is there
German
a
bands.
Traditional Bavarian German tuba player who's the guy? Like in that world, is there like a famous one that's like
I'm sure there is. I wouldn't know his name, but I mean, I'm
you
sure
wouldn't know?
there's, yeah, I'm sure there's
And
people.
When you're listening to music on your own, because you're playing it so often, do you even listen to music? I mean, I don't listen to that much music unless it's instrumental myself. And thank you for your new instrumental record. I'll
Sure.
put that on the turntable I don't have. Thank you, Bandcamp. The Gates' new record, Almost, is it called Almost Alive?
Almost live.
Almost
Yeah.
Live. Almost Live. I'm almost alive at this point. I've been on tour so long. Um, what do you listen to music? Do you watch forensics? What do you do when you have some downtime?
Oh, forensics. You mean like
Read a book.
forensic files, the TV show?
I'm just a forensic fanatic. I'm just asking.
well, I mean, Dan watches a lot of movies, or at least he did back in the day. I don't know if you still do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love B movies, like kind of like that kind of 80s, early 90s, late 70s genre, American, but also European stuff. I'm definitely trying
Horror.
to watch a lot of horror movies, sci-fi, things on that
Have you seen
ilk.
Long Legs? Did you see Long Legs?
I did say Long Legs. What did you think of it?
Well, I don't like Nicolas Cage, but I loved him in that, and also I love that it's written and produced and directed by Anthony Perkins' son.
That's interesting. I thought it was
And I saw
okay.
Monkey. Saw
Oh, how was
Monkey. Well, I've
Monkey?
never
I
seen
didn't
a
see
film that
Monkey yet.
saw them both on the plane. I've never seen a film with so much yellow in it, which is very
Huh.
depressing. As Long Legs. I'm very particular about horror myself, but yeah,
Yeah,
kind of
it's
an
funny.
expert
It's
on. early 70s New York films from first time directors because when I lived in Spain, they'd always show them at 6 a.m.
Oh,
So that
interesting.
period of film, New York films especially, I'm
Yeah,
kind
for
of a
sure.
fanatic of.
Well, it's funny, like, group like production houses like A24. I mean, I don't like everything they do, but it's kind of cool that there's like a current company that's, throwing money at, hey, let's see if this sticks, trying out some stuff. They put out some pretty interesting films, I think, in the last little bit. But I love like the pre CGI, just, the classic
Uh,
like Evil Dead, all that stuff. Like things from that ilk. I just love like,
right,
okay,
classic horrors.
yeah, it's like, okay, we need the eyeball to fall out of the guy's head and then go into the soup, and then the soup, like just the brains. So like some of the I
Well, I have
follow
to say, Monkey. I have to say, Oswald Perkins' new film Monkey has some because the monkey is the murderer has some pretty good, very explosive murder scenes.
some
I
good
mean, it's a little
kills.
bit funnier, which is not where I usually tend to go with horror. I always scream at horror. I'm like, "You stupid idiots! There's five of you and one killer. Get out of there!"
You probably know
But
this, the Scanners, the Cronenberg.
Yes.
oh, I love Cronen,
But
early
you
Cronenberg.
but
Yeah.
but you know about the famous scene about how they did it?
You
Oh, do
told me. I
tell.
read about it,
It
or you
was a
told
it
me.
was it was a shotgun, and a shotgun from behind, and it was a watermelon.
Nice.
Ah,
And I
and they
think, and it was something where they like nailed it the first time. They're like, well, we have still have five watermelons. Like, well, I guess let's just, do a few more shots of it. But I just love that kind of shit where it's just like, like not like low budget, but obviously not like millions and millions. And it's like, we just need to figure this out. How do we do it? And just like the drawing board aspect of
so
it.
what they do, they put like a wig on a watermelon and they cut the frame just at the last second, so you can't tell, the eye can't
That's
catch that
right.
it's a person.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Although the
yeah,
funny thing is we went to see the Shrouds a few months ago. It's like it was like his most recent Cronenberg's like he's like in his 80s
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
Not
Is it any
recommendable.
good?
It was a no, it was
What?
a little meandering.
I have to say I really haven't liked his last numerous films, but he did so many in the beginning that were so good. You know,
I know
let him go.
he had a amazing little period there.
I
Yeah.
mean,
did you like
Videodrome
History of
Daddy
Violence?
Records, Crash, so good.
I thought it was okay. It felt a little like just scripted or just kind of like, yeah, I don't know.
What'd you say,
I
Jim?
was
Didn't
History of
hear you.
Violence. History of Violence.
Oh, I
Vigo.
liked that. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know.
So
Yeah, the Brood, Dead Ringers, all that stuff. I mean, there's just kind of this like
That Ringer's masterpiece.
this
Videodrome
classic period.
masterpiece. Crash
what do you
masterpiece.
think of his what do you think of the film score of those early Cronenbergs?
Oh, we'll do the Howard Shore stuff.
Yes.
Oh, it's awesome. And again, that's the funny thing is that like I was talking earlier about this British guy. It's like it's funny that you say, "Oh, I'm a film composer." Like there's so much shitty film composing now, but like back in the day, dude, even John Williams. You listen to early John Williams scores. I mean. They're really good. And that's the
But
funny thing I want connected with orchestras. It's funny now the
the
phenomenon
erosion
of
of the Union is probably part of that too, right?
um well, yeah, a lot of it went overseas, but you're saying so that has to do with how
Uh,
who's playing
okay.
it.
But go ahead. You were gonna
Um
make a point. I'm curious what
or
you're
no,
gonna
I
say.
was just gonna say that's I'm connecting it with like orchestra culture because that's been a huge takeoff in at least in the Americas is like live film scores. Like watch Return of the Jedi with an orchestra playing the score live.
Yeah.
And it's like a huge moneymaker, which goes back to like funding, and how these
Right.
orchestras. Yeah,
That's right, because Star Wars is so popular. It's sort of like the Boston Pops. They get people to go to the orchestra. They got to fucking show these movies behind them while people crank through it. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that's interesting. What?
But
All right. So
but
what?
in a way, it's kind of cool because you're right, if your high school whatever doesn't have arts program, you go to a movie, you're like, oh, that whatever. But then if you see it live, I mean, maybe it's potentially
Maybe it triggers something.
more impactful. Yeah.
What about tuba used for comedy? Sort of like when someone fails and The Price is Right, there's a tuba theme tag. It's like dun dun dun
Oh,
dun.
sure. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of tuba parts for like failure or just like really
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
awkward comedic.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Comic relief.
Well, it
You
can be a
know.
very sad instrument. Let's face it.
Yeah.
I,
What
I,
was the, it was the, is it, there's the Fellini film Orchestra Rehearsal. And then it's like, there's a scene where the tuba player is just like practicing by himself. And he's like, watching the moon outside his window and he's practicing. He's like, it's like a dog howling at the moon. Yeah.
but it's like this, but it's like it's got yeah, it's really funny. Yeah. Well, interesting. And what do you think of when Butthole Surfers brought the sousaphone out? Have you
Oh,
seen?
it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so what about this coming up? So you're out for the summer, right? So when does the ballet kind of really pick up again? September?
Yeah, we start like mid-September. There's like a 4 week fall season.
Do you guys over rehearse sometimes? Is it just because it's the protocol? You kind of have to. I mean, sometimes you guys just have it, and you're like, why are we even here?
Um, I would say that's less so. It might happen if there's like a new piece, like a totally new composition or something, or new choreography that we have to rehearse.
Yeah. So it's interesting. We've had this conversation, and now another person that was me too'd was James Levine, who
Right.
with all his problems, and I think he won a defamation lawsuit. So I don't even know how that.
Is that
I
right?
don't know
Even when
how
he was alive?
he won no. I think he won a defamation lawsuit at the end of his life, mainly because a lot of those young boys he was having sex with, a lot of their stories were all kind of like jumbled. What's going on, but whether they're groomed, blah blah blah. But that's not really
Right.
what I'm talking about. You worked with James Levine before, and I think you told me his assistants would be having all these rehearsals, and then you're like, well, why is this guy so incredible? And he would come in for the last couple of rehearsals, and it was like someone who really knows how to mix a record, just everything opens up. What is that? That's how you interpreted that, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, he definitely, there's recordings I could point to that are just like, they're just great recordings. And he obviously had some intellectual and conducting and musical prowess. Um, but it's funny, I'll connect it. It's something I wanted to finish with earlier, talking about like orchestral musicians and the kind of inherent myopia of that career path is that it also connects with like a lot of hubris. And so I think these people get into these jobs and it's like, oh, I play at the Met. Well, people then should probably want to know what I think about, oil prices or geopolitics or something. And it's
Oh,
like,
right.
not really, you know. But Levine, there were like there's the Levinites. I mean, there's still a few people, I don't know them really personally, but there's still a handful of people at the Met that were, chosen by Levine. I mean, they auditioned, but they came in under his tutelage, and there was sort of this group that, was kind of like a special group and kind of were treated differently under his tenure
What,
there.
but wasn't that corruption? Wasn't that unethical? Like, because aren't these auditions supposed to be behind screen, so there's no prejudice, and yet through his flex, he could push it through, right? Is that?
Well, no, I think it's more that they won the audition when he was the conductor. And because
Okay,
the process for these is that you win the audition blind, but then
I get it.
you get tenure from the conductor. And that's where there's kind of more risk of like nepotism or, sort of like rubbing
Well,
elbows kind of stuff.
so let's also talk about a conductor with a vision versus one that's willing to work with the board to get people to fill the seats. And so you have like Boulez, who arguably became a major composer name in the United States via conducting. That's how he kind of worked, his kind of snuck into the back door, maybe. But wasn't there a lot of controversy too? Like he would dismiss uh, classic late romantic pieces and all that stuff. I'm just getting at the politics of this all. Like
Right.
I always feel like when the orchestra feels like or when the organization feels like they're running out of money and they're not filling seats, just pandering and going kind of dumbing it down. Does that really work? Uh,
No.
as opposed to someone who really cares, even if it's a little challenging for the general public.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is that, right, having played a lot of different kinds of gigs, it's funny to me knowing people that have only ever played classical music and would think of, something at a dive bar or like a jazz club as being like, or a Broadway show being other. And ultimately, it's all entertainment, right? I mean, so back to Chicago, it's like, why do they bring in Billy Ray Cyrus? Because it sells tickets, right? But now, fast forward to the ballet. I mean, a few years ago, there was a new choreography to a piece by Solange Knowles. You might know her sister Beyonce.
Yes.
And it was like the music's like kind of what you would think, like pop singer kind of fooling around with some weird sounds. Like there's worse stuff. It's not my cup of tea, but I mean it like packed the house. You saw Agon. I mean, I would say at this point, my guess is that behind the scenes when they're like doing crunching numbers, they're like, why the fuck are we, what's up with this Agon? No one wants to see this. And then somebody says, well, my father pays, 200,000 a year to make Agon happen or something,
Well,
I
well,
mean,
Dan, I have to say, Agon's about 22 fucking minutes. And if that bothers you, it's gone, as opposed to some sleepy ass fucking thing that's like an hour and 45
well, that's
minutes. Like,
true. That's one advantage of ballet for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Um,
I think it's kind of interesting that right now on Broadway, there's both. I think she's still on Jinx Monsoon and Orville Peck in various productions, which
hmm.
is the opposite side of a Billy Ray Cyrus or a Solange Knowles. I think that's kind of interesting, although I don't know why they don't have Joseph Keckler up there, but that's just my opinion.
Hmm.
well, going back to the Billy Ray Cyrus story, when he turned to the band asking what you thought, you're saying there's a director or someone who's like, don't talk to them. So are there rules that you're not supposed to interact based on the union?
Oh, no, that
Now look
wasn't a
me in
that
the
wasn't
eye, some of them.
that wasn't a union thing. That was just like that particular conductor just being like incensed that like
Oh,
they weren't
he was
going, they
going
weren't the
around the
liaison.
conductor.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's yeah,
ugh.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's always in there. The conductors, that's a
Yep.
whole conversation,
And we can talk about I mean, because the general public can't really differentiate a good conductor from a bad conductor.
Oh, dude,
And
that's the funniest thing. So we used to we're in Astoria, but my wife and I used to live in Brooklyn, and one of the places we were kind of close to the Park Slope Food Co-op. So we were members there for 3 or 4 years, and I got to know my squad captains, these two guys, Russell and Michael, and yeah, sweet guys. They lived in New York like in the 70s and 80s, and all these great stories. But it got to the point where I went out like for lunch a few times with one of the guys, and yeah, he's kind of like, Grateful Deadhead, but like not a musician, like doesn't play at all, just like loves music, right? But it was so funny because he was asking these same questions, and he said, "So the conductor, that's just for show, right? You guys don't need a conductor. You're just playing." It was
no.
really funny. It was actually I was like, I wonder how ubiquitous this is, that people are like, oh, that's just like for fun.
Well,
Yeah,
I
for
went.
visuals.
Dan, excuse me, I consider myself a conductor. Just ask him
Well,
about that.
Yeah.
the thing is, well, you're
I
a good
got I
one.
got my own way of conducting murders again and various things, and it does involve hand signals. I don't need to use the baton anymore because they know what they're doing. But trust in the
Mhm.
past, coat hanger has
Do
worked
you,
Well,
yeah, do you need, you put a tarp out, right? Just in case.
for the blood.
Yeah.
well, when I saw you last, Dan, and it was Xenakis. No, it was sorry, it was what's the name? The French guy. Uh, the French guy. Who do we see?
There's a
You're
million French
Oh,
guys.
Perez. Perez. Yeah,
Perez.
yeah.
But that could, well, I don't want to name names, but I was shocked. I was like, why? Why? Because the percussion was so far back, and these are all great musicians. Like, why are they? Their downbeats are not the same, and I blame the conductor on that. Like, you got to fucking take control because there's a latency. If you're in the back of the orchestra, there's definitely how the band, how the orchestra hears. And after the intermission, they got better at that, but definitely there was a latency, and I'm like, hey, conductor, you got to fucking
There,
rope this shit in, you
yeah,
know?
it's yeah, there are definitely there is a craft to it. There are better and worse conductors. I would say there's a funny way in which it's kind of like the bass player in a jazz gig. Like if you don't notice them, that means they're like pretty good, right? They're not getting in the way, you know.
Sometimes, yep,
And then, and if they're really good, then they still like, wow, that was a great performance. And part of that was because it was a great conductor or something. So
yep.
yeah, there's a degree to which it's easy to bash them and they maybe don't get credit if something goes well. Um, but
Well, I mean, Boulez had his own very kind of, he was all about like the objective conducting, just savant metric time, and
he was
very
very,
little,
yeah, very tight,
no
very small
grandiose
box.
expression.
No, Yeah.
and these super grandiose expression conductors, like particularly who do all this late romantic stuff, it's a distraction. It's actually, I think, it dishonors the composition. It's like it's all about me, and that's why that deadhead you're talking to is like, wait, that's just for show, right? Because so many of them are clearly so much about show.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you
Well,
get conductors now. You get conductors now wearing like Richard Mille watches and $500 Versace t-shirts. I mean, there's well, I mean, I don't know. Actually, Wynton Marsalis, right? And the Movado wearing the Movado
Uh,
watch. I mean, you don't have to go that far.
did you ever work for Tilson Thomas?
Just once in I subbed New World Symphony in Miami. He was conducting
Oh,
down there. Yeah.
yeah, I saw him do Ives Fourth. Yeah, that was cool. So Lydia, Dan, I still never played Carnegie Hall, and Dan gave me an opportunity, but I think I was on the road with you. Yeah, you had a job offer to do something with like a gospel.
Yeah,
And
there was
Tim,
a
you want to play Carnegie Hall? I want to, but I'm on the road. I can't believe I missed my chance.
there was a period of time
well, you know
where
what? There's always time. There's always time for that in the future. But we got to wrap this up right now. Any last questions, Tim?
Okay. Dan, do you want to plug anything?
no, just the new Gate album. I think I sent you or emailed you the link, right? Tim,
Yeah.
the
I
okay,
heard it.
yeah.
The Gate,
I downloaded it.
mysterious, creepy, melodic in parts, haunting. Loved it. The Gate, Dan
Awesome.
Peck on Bandcamp and God knows wherever else.
Dan,
So
Dan,
this,
thanks for taking time out. And I guess if you want to see or hear Dan, definitely City Ballet picks up again in September. Otherwise, keep an eye out for his
otherwise,
different
check out
pieces
the
and
new record.
ensembles.
Check out the ninth album, The Gate, on Bandcamp and contribute to an experimental piece of mysterious music. This is the
Okay.
Lydia and Spain with Lydia Lunch, Tim Garland, and Dan Peck. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Dan. Thanks
All
for
right,
taking the
thanks
time.
guys. All right.
Yep.
See ya.
Cool.